Much, Julie, and it's wonderful to see so many great faces here, and to be back at ACERT, which is always such a great community to be a part of. Everyone can hear me okay? Great. So I'm gonna try and keep remarks short, especially because I am super thrilled to say that one of my students from first year writing from composition, Peta-Jan Wanliss, is here. So and she's going to talk a little bit about the assignment I'm presenting today. So I'm going to turn it over to her shortly. I wanted to sort of just kind of introduce you to an assignment that that I've developed and that I've used in my first year composition courses at Hunter. Just briefly, I'm a PhD student at the Grad Center in English, and but I've also been an adjunct at Hunter for a while, and I've been at ACERT before, so I recognize a lot of you, and we've talked about you know, pedagogy and ungrading, and that's something I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about today, or at least something related to ungrading. So I think this my intent is hopefully you'll see the linkage between this assignment and what will be talked about on the Thursday panel. But I work in the areas of 19th century American literature, but also in composition and pedagogy, and I teach classes both in American literature and first year writing. So this assignment is an assignment that I've developed and that I've used in conjunction with my interest in ungrading, which began I think about 3 years ago, and of course took on a certain urgency after the pandemic, especially. And I think it's an assignment that, so it's an assignment that I call a grading autobiography, and I think it works well with ungrading, especially in composition courses where that are themed around issues of pedagogy and social justice and the university. I sort of teach my first year composition like a critical, almost like a critical university studies class. So I'm going to screen share this assignment and just kind of show you. I'm also going to link it in the chat. I made it into a Google Doc. You can see it and look at it when you want, but I'll screen share this and just highlight a couple of points about this. And then I'm going to turn it over to my student who's going to talk about her experiences with ungrading in the course and also with doing this assignment for first year composition. So let me know if you can see this. Everyone good there? So this assignment asks students, and I think of it as an assignment that is a kind of form of student empowerment, particularly a form of empowerment that kind of centers, and this is something that I think we all as panelists are interested in, empowering students, but doing it in a way that's sort of care-centered, centering care as something that's fundamental to a transformative pedagogy. And I think of this assignment as an assignment that does empower students because it asks them to write their kind of own historiography of, or their own kind of personal narrative of being graded, and it complements some of the text that we read as a class, texts like Jesse Stommel's Why I Don't Grade, and also selections from the volume that ACERT and the reading group has been reading, The Ungrading, Why Rating Students Undermines Learning and What to Do Instead, edited by Susan Blum. So this assignment asks students to write a narrative that talks about kind of their history with being graded, and that focuses on a particular moment in which they received a grade and what their sort of response was to it. And I think of it as empowering because it makes grading itself a site for critique and for critical inquiry. And it gives students a certain visibility over this subject, which is something that affects all of their lives, but which is rarely sort of investigated or made to be kind of transparent or to be thought of in a critical or reflective way. So these are some of the questions. So I say in this prompt, most likely we've all had good or bad experience receiving a grade on an assignment, test, or in the class. In this assignment, rather than simply reflecting on grades in an abstract way, I encourage you to isolate one particular event with receiving a grade, good, bad, or neutral, and use that story as a way of reflecting on how you feel about grades as such. And they're also coordinating this with some of the text that we read in the class. And so these are some of the questions that, like, these are thought of as sort of thought-provoking questions that I put in the assignment. If I were to write my own history with grades of being graded and of trying or not trying to get good grades, what might that history look like? What would it tell of? How do grades reinforce structures and systems of white supremacy? How has my own experience shown this to be true? And a lot of the responses that students have that speak to this question are really fascinating and compelling. What is my relationship to grades? How do I feel about them, and how do they color/influence the way I understand learning and education? And if real learning transcends or reaches beyond grades, what does real learning look like for me? Based on my own experience, what is meaningful learning and education? So this is sort of what the assignment is after. And like I said, I put it in a Google Doc. You can take a look at it if you want. I'm happy that my students here to talk about this, because I intend this assignment in a multimodal. It comes from an interest in multimodal composition too. It is an alphabetic assignment, but I think of it as multimodal and asking students to write in a different modality, and asking students to, or giving students the opportunity to think of an audience beyond me or beyond the class. Of course, that is their most immediate audience, but in these cases, like having my student here and come to talk about this assignment, it grants a certain visibility to students' experiences with grades, and with the education systems in general. So, and I'm still trying to think of a way to give a bigger form to this. I think in my work in WAC, I'm thinking about having some students contribute either portions or full essays to I work at WAC in Lehman, and we're currently building a WAC kind of commons website. So there might be some venue for digital publication for these. But I'm going to turn it over to my student, Peta, and she's just going to talk about her experience doing this assignment, and maybe if she wants, how she feels about ungrading and what that's been like. And I also, Peta's essay is a wonderful composition. It's a wonderful example of this type of assignment. So I'm going to, with her permission, I've turned it into a PDF, so I'm going to put that in the chat, and I encourage you to read her essay. But with that, I will turn it over to Peta.
Okay, hi, can everyone hear me? I do not know how to work technology. Okay, awesome. I am a first-year student. Austin Bailey is my teacher. A little bit of a background. I'm from Jamaica originally, and I moved here when I was quite young, around 6 or 7. I came to this country, obviously being in school before, and unfortunately, because I was coming from what was considered a developing country, I wasn't ever tested on literacy or math skills or pretty much anything really. They just immediately decided that I should be held back a grade, which was kind of like really sad as a 6 or 7-year-old realizing you're the oldest in your class. So after doing that, I essentially just decided to kind of lie about all of my learning disabilities, which is mainly dyslexia. Thankfully, I don't have any other ones that I know of. So essentially like lying about my dyslexia, because I saw not only what happened to students that came from other countries, but students that had learning disabilities or that spoke another language. They were just immediately put in very remedial classes and weren't really given the opportunity to push forward or succeed or even get honored honors courses. I think I'm a bit lucky in the fact that I went to school in both the South and the North. The South being my very first, like, I think it was like first grade through 6th, and then 2 years in Jersey. And I didn't really notice a difference until I came back to the South. And I realized I was just kind of like, all right, not only am I the only person of color in any of my honors classes, but I kind of had to request all of these classes. They weren't necessarily just given to me or assigned to me or suggested to me. It was something that I personally had to seek out and achieve. So during these classes, like I said, I felt very weird because I was the only person of color in my class. And not only that, I was lying about a disability. And somehow I had like skated through high school, middle school, and elementary without like the fundamental understanding behind English because of my dyslexia. and somehow graduated an honor student. I couldn't tell you how I did that, honestly. But I think because of my initial move here and being held back and knowing that I can't necessarily read or write as well as, I guess, people around me or people without the learning disability, I was always like absolutely scared shitless of writing classes. I remember when I was signing up for Hunter classes, I was so mad that we had core classes we had to take because I'm going for the arts, just any other person in New York, obviously. I was like, okay, cool. I've got to take a math, I've got to take a science, and I've got to take a writing. I was so scared for this class. You have no idea. I was like, this is going to absolutely wreck my GPA. I haven't written in so long. I've never felt confident about it. And then I came in, super nervous. And then I found out it was an ungrading class. And I was like, okay, cool. Stand a shot. That's awesome. Not going to get an F, hopefully. Yeah, I've never really felt the freedom to write before. I feel like whenever I had a paper, it was always just kind of like this close to a panic attack for me, because I guess I've been told I write how I speak, and that isn't necessarily the best, I suppose, and I'm trying to get a point across, or it doesn't fall under a specific grammatical structure that we're all supposed to aim for. Even though it could sound like super poetic or very romantic, it still didn't fall under that category. So I always really struggled with trying to fit into that and getting an A or a B or a C or just passing grade. So it's just the ability to know that I wasn't going to be completely judged and failed kind of gave me the freedom to write, to actually be able to get feedback versus like going to 6 or 7 of my friends being like, please read this, edit this. I don't think I'm doing this right. So that was nice because like I said, I went through my entire career without really knowing how to do any of this stuff. And for some reason, no one really picked up on it, which kind of raised another red flag for me, because it's just kind of like, so you're not really putting in any effort in your students to see what they can really do. All you're doing is grading a single paper. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. They did this. They understand the subject. That's fine. But like, let's say they did something where like, okay, right on the spot, you only have 30 minutes, pen and paper, write 2-paragraph essay. I think they should have been able to see the difference between something that was written in class and something that was written at home that got a lot of help from other people. So I don't really think it was a really good way of understanding what students were capable of. And like I said, I didn't necessarily want to tell anyone I didn't know how to spell because that would have immediately launched me from doing any of my AP English courses and any of my honors English courses, which I passed very well. And I would have just been put into something remedial without the ability to essentially succeed in being taught very, very basic things, which I did need, but not necessarily any more than that. So this was an awesome opportunity, and I'm glad that I get to speak because I was very scared to turn in this essay, but also not, because I wasn't scared of failing. So thank you so much.
We're very lucky to have you here, so I really appreciate you coming to talk about that.
Thank you for having me.
So I think that ends in our portion of the presentation.